Hi, I'm Jude Tolar. I'm a pastel artist. Right now I'm in my studio and I'm going to give you just a brief little tour of part of my studio, the tamed part. And after I do that, then I will do a painting demo for you with pastels. Behind me on my easel, that's a Best brand easel, my studio one. I have a plein air piece that I did a few weeks ago. Painting on plein air is my preferred way to paint. I love being outdoors. There's so much to paint out there and the light is incredible. However, in the winter, that's a little more problematic. Here in Oklahoma, it can get cold. So I'm just not that rugged anymore in terms of wanting to paint when it's really cold outdoors. So anyway, this has been up on my easel while I tweak it and look at it and before deciding if it's completely finished. So I'll take this down in a few minutes and put up a painting that I will do for you. So now I'm gonna pan. Sorry, I'm not a video expert. In fact, this is my first video. So bear with me and kind of overlook my glitches, but I'm just going to pan over here to show you another painting. That is a little painting. It's on my Heilman easel and paint box. This is the one, if you've been to any of my demos in person, this is the setup I bring with me for demos and workshops, and it's what I use outdoors painting around here as well. This is just a little, it was pretty cold last week, but I painted this outdoors because I wanted the sunlight on these white roses. So I carried out a vase full of white roses. It was in the mid 40s, set it up where it was in the sunlight and painted it. Still, it was pretty cold, so I only did a small piece, but it was fun. And now I'm leaving it up again to look at it and mull it over and before deciding if it's completely finished. I think it's just about there. It's just the small dark piece in the center of all of that. It's sitting on a piece of gator board which has been well used and has all sorts of colors on it. Little broader view of this corner of my studio for pastels. I'll just kind of walk you through it. On the far left, there's another easel with a landscape plein air at the top of it. Just still, again, looking at it, tweaking it, is from before Christmas. Below that, I have 3 little 5x7 paintings that I did before Christmas. 2 are of poinsettias and 1 is of vintage ornaments. I really like how they look, and I just haven't brought myself to put them away just yet. Still like Christmas just a little. Next to that, just going to the right, is a tall cabinet with different colored drawers where I have some pastel supplies, and behind that is a huge metal cart where I have all of my Terry Ludwigs and all sorts of different supplies, materials, pastels, such as that. And then behind that is that easel, the Best easel with the landscape still sitting on it. Next to that is a Craftsman toolbox, which is a great storage, and I also use it for display. You can almost see the little floral arrangement I'm going to work with for today's demo. Anyway, lots of things stored in there as well. Then if you pan on around to the windows, you will see that little tiny roses painting that's up on the easel, the little Heilman easel. And as you're coming this way, then I have a glass table that I got at Habitat Restore for $10. It's awesome. Underneath it is a TV table with glass shelves that matches it, which was out by the curb for trash pickup one day in town. So, wow, what a find. It fits under there and it matches perfectly. So I kind of keep my art show and workshop materials under there. That's kind of fun. I'm going to pan a little bit more to the right because I want you to see I have some old lockers that I absolutely love. They hold art supplies of other kinds, drawing and acrylics and mixed media, fixatives, all sorts of things. They're a great storage venue, and believe me, I enjoy them a lot. So here's a little closer look at my pastel setup. Here I have a sea of Terry Ludwig pastels. I just love, love, love the way they work on things. And then there's my best easel. And to the right of it, you can see the floral arrangement I'm going to work with today. It's Protea, beautiful little tropical flowers. And then just down here in the very middle is where I keep the hard pastels, new pastels, a few Rembrandts. And then next to that, or above that, I also have, let me show you these. They're giant Senneliers. Giant. I don't use them very often unless I'm doing a large painting, but boy, they're fabulous for that. Oh. I have my just basic shapes blocked in for this with a turquoise new pastel, just to kind of get an idea of where the main elements are and the kind of posture of them. I'm painting on Art Spectrum's Color Fix sanded paper. It's my favorite paper, and my favorite color in that is this one, which is aubergine. It's like a grayed purple. You'll notice that I kind of am using it's a cool color paper, which I like, with the warm pinks that are going to be in this Protea. So we'll just see what happens. First thing I'm going to do is put in some dark behind there because I really want that glow of the petals to pop. I want the value to really be strong, and the darker the background is, the more that will happen. So first thing I will do is that I will put in some indigo blue with a new pastel. I'll put some burnt umber new pastel over that, smudge it all together, and it'll be a nice dark color. I think since I have a gesture going like this, I'm going to make the swath kind of go this way. I'm just using the side of the pastel right here. I'm making big gestures. Just want to make sure that the top, the space above the swath is not the same here and here. You don't want equal amount of space here and here. And I'm going to come in with some burnt umber and go the other direction. This swath doesn't completely overlap the flowers. I want some of that shape to pop out without it. But I'm going the other direction. I did the indigo this way, now I'm going this way with the burnt umber. And now I'm going to use this side of my hand to smudge it. I will thank Debbie Testery for teaching me that. It saves wear and tear on your fingerprints. Yeah, that looks good. Now, I can still kind of see the turquoise underlying it, enough to know what I'm doing, I think. So the first thing I'm going to do is start looking at the darkest darks in the petals themselves, or the shapes. And I'm just going to do that whole shape in that color. Everything I see, I'm going to let it just bleed on down here. This front flower is younger, and so eventually it'll be lighter in color. And of course it's smaller. Let me make sure I keep it smaller. You know, I've thought very hard about the posture of this stem, so the flower itself needs to follow the same line. Over here it's leaning this way, so I need to make sure the top shape leans in the same sort of way. And just keep it very general. That doesn't change much. The dark reds in new pastels are not all that great. They're kind of a little too hard, but I make do. I'm going to use some purple. This is a little bit darker, and it's certainly cooler. I want to make sure that the darks are not only darker, but that they're cooler, because I have a warm light shining on the lit parts. Now, I should stop at this point and block in a little bit of the foliage that's on here. Again, the darkest darks, which I'm going to use. This is spruce blue, which is the dark. It's a warm blue-green, but it's very dark. And I'm just going to use that to kind of help me know, again, where those shapes are. And I'm doing the whole leaf, not just the dark part of each leaf. I will paint the light later on top of it. Again, I'm trying to stay very loose and gestural. The beauty of pastels is that they can be as opaque or as very opaque and almost transparent at the other end of the spectrum. So you don't have to worry about making mistakes or having to correct something, because you always can. Because it can be so opaque or transparent, you can correct either a color, a temperature, a value, an edge, sharpen it, soften it. It's just wonderful. That really helps me just have fun and not get too nervous about the whole process, because it isn't right, or it looks right now but later turns out not to be. I can just change it. I love the freedom of that. Again, I'm not going to get too concerned about the leaves at this point. I just kind of want to know where they are and what size they are. There's a whole big crazy thing back here of some leaves on another bud. I'm not going to do much with that now, because I need to get loosened up and warmed up before, because I'll just kind of hint at it when I put it in. So I'll just leave that for later. And make sure this leaf kind of bleeds off the page. I want one to bleed off the page here. A lot of times I like to have a third thing bleeding off up here. Just don't think that I'm going to do that this time, though. Kind of risky to not follow a formula. On the other hand, formulas don't have to be followed all the time. I did see a little branch I think would be fun to put in here. Again, I'm not worried about, these are in a vase, but the vase isn't my story, so I'm not even including it. You know, this isn't like a painting of an arrangement of flowers. It's more of a portrait of these two particular flowers, so that's why I'm up close. It's well lit, and I'm really focusing on how those flowers look and what the light does to bring them to life. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute because I need to make sure that I'm doing this right. I have to contemplate for a minute. So far, so good. Now I'm going to start working on bringing in some of the lighter values so I can kind of get an idea of whether my darks are dark enough, and that will help me know. I'm still working with the new pastels. I like to get at least halfway done with the painting before switching to the soft ones. I don't want to fill up the tooth too quickly. And these are small enough that I can really get detail, or get, not detail, but get the shapes where I need them to be. So these leaves, that the parts that are backlit are just really strong color. Now, it's important to paint the way the leaves look, not make them an irregular like picket fence of leaves. We want to do that. We want to make them orderly, but they're just not that way. So I want to make sure they're kind of random and different heights, different widths, different postures. Here's one that kind of flips off over here. Again, I'm not going to get in every little part of every little leaf. I just want to get enough established to know if I'm in the right value range. This guy over on here, in reality, is very brightly lit. I'm not going to leave him as strongly lit as the others because I don't want your eye just going off the page at him. I want your eyes to stay in here. So over here, there's just one that's really strongly lit. The others are less so. Now, the back leaves on this flower are really dark because they're in the shadow. I'm just going to kind of indicate those, but I'm not going to do a lot because I still need to paint behind it. I'll just get a little bit going. Now, you notice I'm just brushing that. That's just to correct it a little bit. I had it too strong on there. I don't want it to be that light. Normally, when I'm painting, I don't blend with my finger at all. I just let one layer on top of another kind of glaze each other. There's a value in between this really strongly lit part and the really dark shaded part, so I'm going to try and get a little of that in here too. This is more of a, here's what I was using before for the lit part. This is what I'm putting on there now for kind of the mid-tone, mid-value. And this is what I was using for the dark leaves, the dark part of the leaves. At this point, I just want to stay fairly simple and get mainly 3 values going on these leaves. Later, as I'm working, I can start to refine that and put in other ranges of values in between those 3. This is just sort of like the overture, as if we want to use a music metaphor. Normally I would be backing up to look at this the whole time I'm painting, but I'm afraid if I do that, in this case, I'm going to knock into my camera, and that would not be good. So forgive me for not doing what I should do. But when you are painting, please stop every few strokes and back up and see how it looks. Now you notice I'm using the side of my pastel, not the end of it, because I don't want to be drawing and get all tight. The only time I would do that is for little detail or little spots at the very end, but right now I just want to stay general, and by keeping it on the side I'm more likely to do that. Now kind of got the range. These will still get brighter with more chroma and lighter in value, but this is kind of a good start. Now let's get into some pinks. Get some of that backlit. Again, the part that's glowing is really warm, and the part that's not backlit is going to stay cooler. In this case, it's almost orange down in here, even though it's a pink flower. The effect of a yellow light, which is pretty much what a warm light bulb is, effect of that on here, pink and yellow pretty much produces orange, because pink is just a light version of red, has some white mixed in with it. Just trying to find the places that I see that kind of really intense glow. And again, I will pump up the chroma more as I develop this more. Over here, again, this is that one little, I was talking about those little spots of glow that I liked down in here. I'm going to go ahead and get those in, because here's what happens with organic things, especially flowers, is they start to open, or they turn, or they change, even indoors, just because they're responding to their cycle of going from a bud to a full-on flower. So I don't want to paint on this and then come back 3 or 4 hours later. It's going to look completely different. I did take photos so that if I need reference later for fine-tuning something, I'll have that. But otherwise, I'm going to try and get this all done in just one session. So, but that being said, the little spots of glow that I liked on that front flower, I'm going to kind of make sure I get that in now, because those petals may start to open and I may lose that as the painting goes on. So if I have them in now, I at least know where they are. It's that whole idea of being prepared or planning ahead. And a lot of times, I'm not going to try drawing in all these edges. I'm just putting in shapes. And by putting in shapes, hopefully that will help create those edges. Even these leaves have some orange on them, which is kind of cool. And I'm tempted to put in that really pretty orange edge now. If I do, though, then I'm going to have to be dodging that pretty edge all the time as I'm painting. So I'm going to resist the temptation to do that, and I will put in a few. I won't outline all of them, but I'll find a few to do, but not till almost the very end. See, like here, they all have it, but I'll just pick a few. So I want to make sure I get this curve shape. I'm kind of bothered by over here. It looks like its weight is too fat. Let me see if I can find a color that's similar. I think that's similar, and just kind of back paint to cover, cut into that flower shape. Yeah, that kind of works. Put a little dark on it too. Again, everything's still very general. See, it's, you know, very elementary at this point, but I think it's going to work. I'm excited. This front flower is cooler. Not only is it lighter, it's younger, it's lighter in value and has less chroma, but it is also has more of a lavender, pale lavender color to it. So I'm going to try and indicate a little of that. I'm using this very lightly. Another fun thing about pastels is I can take this one color and do it very lightly like this, or I can press really hard, and now it becomes an even lighter value. So you get a lot of versatility with just, or a lot of, yeah, versatility with each stick that you're using. Up here, the center part is much smaller, and it's much pinker. This is about the right value, so I'm just going to go ahead and indicate it. And it's not exactly in the middle, it's more over towards this side. And again, I can use that shape and cut in and create these front petals in the process. So that way they're a little more informal than if I actually just drew and filled them in. That front flower, and I'm sorry you can't see it all the time, but I couldn't figure out a way to do it. Just have to go back and refer, and at the end I'll post the flowers again so you could see the models themselves. So I'm just about as far from professional on this as I could possibly be. I'm an artist, not a videographer. But I have a new, even more respect for what those folks with cameras can do. Okay, some of these are glowing, but they're also still very cool. So here's a little bit kind of in between this color and the orange. To hint a little bit at, again, a bit of a glow, stronger chroma. I'm pressing pretty hard. And I'm looking up here to see where else I see that color. It's in a lot of places. And I'm painting, and I don't just put down a color and, oh, there, that's exactly the right color and that's exactly the right value. I'm sort of getting an idea kind of in the general range of what it needs to be, and then I can keep adding to it and correcting it and refining it. Really, again, I'm not going to worry about the little details down in there. I just want to get that range going. Squint, squint. Remember to squint. Do this. Squint when you're looking at your painting and your model, because that will help you assure that your values are correct. It kind of screens out some of the color so that you're seeing the light and dark and less of the chroma. Very important to do that. I should have a big note up here, and sometimes I do, that says squint. Not frown, but squint. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute and go back and look at it.